And this was by the instruction of Allah. And then the Prophet married alayhi salatu wasalam Hafsa, the daughter of Umar, his close companion. So Aisha was the daughter of Abu Bakr, his close companion. And then he married Zainab bint Jahsh. And Zainab was his cousin. And she was married to his so-called son through adoption, before Allah abolished adoption in Islam. So she wasn't at the time his daughter-in-law, because there was no adoption. And her husband was Zayd ibn Haritha. May Allah be pleased with him. He's the only companion's name to be mentioned in the Quran. And their story was mentioned in the Quran as well, in chapter 33, where adoption was abolished and abrogated. Then the Prophet married ﷺ also, among those whom he had married, Zainab bint Khuzaymah. And Zainab bint Khuzaymah lived with the Prophet ﷺ only for 1 year and few months. And she died in the lifetime of the Prophet ﷺ. So Khadija and Zainab both died in the lifetime of the Prophet ﷺ. And she was a really righteous, pious woman who was known to be Ummul Masakin, the mother of the needy. Why? Because she used to feed the poor and the needy and the orphans, and she used to dedicate her life to them. And the Prophet also married alayhi salatu wasalam Salama. Of course, Zainab bint Khuzaymah, the Prophet married her as a form of showing his gratitude and pity at the same time when her husband died. So most of those whom the Prophet married alayhi salatu wasalam were either widows, like in the case of Hafsa, of Zainab bint Khuzaymah, of Salama, may Allah be pleased with her. Salama was a widow, and her husband, Abu Salama, was the Prophet's brother alayhi salam through suckling. So when she was stranded with children and an immigrant in Medina with no one, the Prophet stepped in to marry her alayhi salatu wasalam, which she opposed in the beginning, saying that I'm an old woman, I have children, and I'm extremely jealous. I can't be your wife. So the Prophet said, you're not older than me, and your children will be under my wing. I'll take care of them. As for your jealousy, I will ask Allah to remove it. And so this is what happened. Then the Prophet married Habiba, Ramlah bint Abi Sufyan, who was one of the first to migrate to Abyssinia. And when her husband died, the Prophet proposed to her when she was in Abyssinia as well, and married her. Then there was Maymuna bint al-Harith. And Maymuna bint al-Harith is the sister of Zainab bint Khuzaymah. May Allah be pleased with them all. And we've mentioned her story before, that their mother had a number of daughters, I don't remember now, maybe 9 or 10, who were married to dignitaries of Quraysh. So Maymuna bint al-Harith, one of her sisters is Lubaba al-Kubra, which is, or who is the wife of al-Abbas, the mother of Ibn Abdullah ibn Abbas. And the other one is Lubaba al-Sughra, who was married to, or the opposite, Lubaba al-Sughra is married to al-Abbas, and Lubaba al-Kubra is married to al-Mughira the mother of Khalid. She was married to Al-Walid ibn al-Mughira, who is the father of Khalid ibn al-Walid. So imagine, the Prophet ﷺ was married to the aunt of Abdullah ibn Abbas and Khalid ibn al-Walid at the same time. This is the web that the Prophet ﷺ married so many women for, to have alliances, to have allies among all of Arabia, among the dignitaries and the families of Arabia. And then the Prophet married ﷺ Safiyyah bint Huyay, whose father and husband were Jews, and then she accepted Islam after them being killed for betraying the Muslims and their treachery. And the Prophet married her to honor her, alayhi salatu wasalam. And finally, the Prophet married, Maymuna, we spoke, she was the last one the Prophet had married, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But before that, he married also Juwayriyah bint al-Harith from the tribe of al-Mustalaq, Bani al-Mustalaq. And the Prophet married her in order to honor her and her tribe, who were captive and prisoners of war. But when the Prophet married her, as-salam, the Muslims released all these prisoners and freed them for the honor of the mother of the believers. And these are all women that the Prophet ﷺ married them, all of them. The only virgin was Aisha, and the rest were all either widowed or divorcees, or women who were in distress and had no one to care for them. And the Prophet stepped in to do this noble job. And we know the great role and importance of having so many wives around the Prophet ﷺ, who managed to convey to us everything that happened in his home, in his privacy, and how he dealt with things that other men could not see because it was concealed in his house. So we know exactly how the Prophet lived inside out, alayhi salatu wasalam, through his marriages to these noble mothers of ours. All of his wives are mothers of the believers. May Allah be pleased with them all. هذا والله أعلم ونسبة العلم إليه أسلم وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. يا راغبا في